Hello and welcome back to the Herbal Entrepreneur Conference. I'm Yolanda Joy, and today we have Margi Flint joining us, who is the author of The Practicing Herbalist. Margi, I'm so glad you could join us today.
Oh, it's so lovely to be in Italy.
I do wish you were here right with us. We'd be enjoying some handmade pasta afterwards. It would be
Yes, oh,
lovely.
please. Oh, good wine.
I definitely do have the intention to do in-person events in the future, and I think that would add that extra element. But I am glad that you are here today, and it is a great day to be talking about the client intake process and really how to practice as an herbalist, which I really do think that you are one of the most one of the best herbalists to talk about this topic, because you've literally written the book on the topic, but you've just been practicing for such a long time, and I really admire the way that you teach about this. But before we do get into the details of what this session is all about in that client intake process, I think it would be wonderful if you could give a quick introduction as to who you are as an herbalist and what you do.
Okay. My practice is a family practice, so birth to death. And now at this point, after, let's say I started in 1974, so time has gone by. The babies I brought into the world are now having their own babies. So it's nice to have that generational practice. And I do love a family practice because when you get to know each member of the family, you really feel the dynamics of what goes on. It's quite amazing. And every family is so interesting to work with. Um, so my practice is I have a home practice. So the whole first floor of my home is business. So I sort of live in a tree house on the upper part. So I have my office and my consultation room, which now is a workout room and shipping area. And then I have a huge library in the back and gardens that go on and on. And, it's just a lovely space. And I love to live with the herbs. Sometimes my kids would say, Mom, why don't you get an office outside of the house? Because I was so busy. Oh, why did my son become a chef? Because I would realize it was 7 o'clock at night and I'd go upstairs and the little boy would be on a step ladder at the stove and he'd turn around and go, okay, Mom, dinner's almost ready. I take full credit for that. So he's a very successful chef. And so living with the herbs just feels wonderful to me. And I don't want to have my office outside of the house. I like being here with the plants. And you can see them behind me. And, you know, let's see if I can, I'm not sure. There,
Wow.
there's the tinctures and the space where I make products. And then there's a tincture room. Through the consultation room, there is a tincture room where I make herbal tinctures. And I now have been using a sous vide. Do you know about a sous vide? It's a
No, tell
it's
me
a
more.
cooking tube that keeps the water at a perfect temperature and circulates it. So you put a big spaghetti pot with water and your jars of tinctures or oils, and you put them in the bath and set the timer, and your tincture is done in 8 hours instead of 2 or 8 weeks. So
Ah,
it's
cool.
very
That's
convenient.
very,
Yes,
yeah.
my son Gabe taught me that. It's good to have a chef in the family.
Absolutely. I think that's so wonderful, the way you've organized your space to really suit what you do and your values as well, like with your family, so that you can be working right until that last minute when it's dinner time. And I can
Yeah,
really relate to that. Just you get distracted and you're just working, and you're on a chain of thought, and just being able to do that right up until dinner time, and have your son cooking dinner is perfect for the
yes, when the babes were little, I would have in-house daycare. And they would just come down, I put them, nurse them and love them up a little bit, and off they go. And when my daughter had her first child, I said, well, you can't go back and teach school. I'll pay your mortgage for that month. And then I still couldn't stand her to be away from her baby. So I said, I'll take care of him a couple of days a week. And and she said, Mom, you can't afford that. And I said, yeah, I can. I wasn't able to be with you every minute when you were a baby. This is a precious moment to be able to be with these young beings. She said, Mom, you were always there. I said, oh, well, that worked.
Wonderful. I think, yeah, because it is a struggle that so many of us deal with, that like the family and the work and trying to be there, but like feeling like you're not, but just that balance is really, really important.
Yes, but I will say, I, I, you know, one of the things I would encourage anyone who wants to practice or have any job really is you need to book time off, which I did not do. Knowing and doing are two things. Now that I'm 70, I can look back and say, oh, it would have been nice if I'd booked a few days off every week, which I didn't. I worked all the time. And I'm still not very good at saying no when people call. Somebody calls and says, I have stage 4 cancer, and you can't say, well, I'm writing a book right now. Could you call me in 2 months?
Yeah, it's not possible. It's that, like, that need and that willingness, that want to help. But yeah, that's but then it's important because to take that time out for yourself is like important to be able to give your best to the other people as well. Like, it's all part of it.
Right.
I
Right.
think I really would like to talk a little bit about that client intake process when you are bringing in someone, a new patient. So just anyone that is coming in, like when they do first come to see you as an herbalist, what are the first things that you kind of think about as part of that intake?
Well, when they're on the phone, they usually tell me what they want to come for. And I think it's important, if you have never actually seen that condition, whatever it is, to say, oh, I've never seen anybody with that, but I'm happy to help you. Because I don't like to make false claims about myself. And the truth is, we're all practicing. How do you become a practicing herbalist? You practice by taking, yes, I've done this, I've done this, I've done that. So I'll ask them what their intention is, but frequently what their intention is and what they're actually coming for are not the same. So at this point in life, I don't really pay too much attention about what they say they're coming for. I just say, okay, we'll see you at 9 o'clock, whatever. And what I want to get from them before I actually see them is I want all their medical reports, any blood work that's high or low, all their list of supplements and what the ingredients are, the sources of those supplements, and the medications they're on and how long they've been on them. Because if you do that during the talking time, it's a huge waste of time. I can look at all that privately, make my own notes, and be done with it without wasting valuable speaking time. And I do not like to give my intake form to the person, have them fill it out and give it back. A lot of people do that, but I don't like that. I like to read the body. So, for instance, if I say, have you ever been sexually abused? And they go, no, that's a yes. So, I can read their subconscious, their conscious mind might not even have that revelation yet. And it's not your place to tell them any of that. It's just something I note. Oh, I asked a question, but they said no, but it was a yes, or it was yes, but it was a no. And I want to see the reaction. I want to see their eyes light up or their head go down or whatever the body language is. because, well, that is what I teach, is indications of the body. So, yeah. So it's important for me to see the person. Um, and I like to mix up my intake form. Like, I have I cover all the organ systems, ask little questions. I don't ask every question on my intake form because I get a sense of what's going on right away. Um, but in between, I'll put the psychological questions because I don't want them to know that I'm asking psychological questions, because if anything has happened to somebody and they're protected, they just block. So that way I can get a more honest answer. Um, oh, there was something else that slipped my mind. What was it? What was the question? Oh, I like to know what dosha they are. So, I'm a mixer, a mongrel practitioner. So I love Ayurveda. I love Chinese. I love Huna. I love, Native American, everything. Little bits and pieces. I've patchworked together, and that is who I am. So I find that the doshas are so important. If I know that they're pitta, I'll know they need to believe I am smarter than them, or they won't do anything I say. And they will do everything I say and follow a really complicated schedule because they're pitta. And if they're vata, I know they have to set their cell phone alarm to do anything because they're irregular and they're never going to do anything 3 times a day or 2 times a day. I don't know how anybody does anything 3 times a day. That was my vata speaking. Um, and if they're kapha, you have to appeal to their gastronomical delights. It has to taste delicious. It has to be nurturing and have almost a sensuality to it to make them happy. So if I know which one of the three they are by reading their tongue and their pulses and whatever, I can figure out, which way to proceed with teas and tinctures and baths and poultices, whatever. Yeah.
And
So
so,
those, yeah.
yeah, so that's really interesting that you use that. And do you primarily use the body signs to work out what dosha they are, or do you also ask questions? Like, how do you,
It's
and
a
do they
mix.
realize that you're working out their dosha as you're doing
They
that?
love
Or
it. They
okay.
love that. I mean, knowing their dosha makes people very happy. Like if you tell somebody who's vata, you're never going to do things, regularly. You're irregular. That's who you are. Because all their life they've been trying to fit in and be normal like everybody else, but everyone else isn't normal. No, they just think they're not. So it's like, bless you, my child, you are vata. you know. So, and there, if you know which dosha you are, what'll cause trouble. If you're pitta, you drink coffee, you spin around on the ceiling. There are ways to figure out what is good for people and what isn't. And it's a relief to them. It's like I have a chart in my bathroom, big facial diagnosis chart that William Lassassier, my mentor, he's the one who taught me my diagnostics. Um, and it has the wood, metal, fire faces and descriptions, and everyone comes out and go, oh, what do you think? Am I water? Am I metal? No, it's like palm reading. Everybody wants to know the secret of who they are.
That is true. Like, I know that people love, that's why people love even like personality tests or whatever. They like being told what they are. But this goes even deeper because it's around like, what your spirit, your body is. And so it's even
Uh,
more important. It's that really deep level of understanding, I think.
yeah.
And so I'm really interested in this process. Like, so if I'm a new client and I walk into your home's office, like what does that process look like in terms of like how would you figure out what dosha I am, and how would you work out what I actually need from you?
Okay. People come in. When they walk through the door, I immediately put my hand out and I take their hand, before COVID. I don't know what the world will be like now, but anyway, I put my hand out and I put my hand over theirs and hold it. So I'm already reading them. I'm reading their temperature, how nervous they are. Um, are they looking me in the eye? You know, people who are very confident and secure have a lot of Shen in their eyes. So that light shines out and they look you directly in the eye. Or maybe they're all hunched over and timid and give you the limp fish handshake. And, you know, I mean, by the time they sit down, I already know so much information about them. And, you know, you can read the tongue while they're talking. You know, how relaxed is it? How tense is it? How much does it fill the mouth? Are their teeth regular? Are they irregular? I mean, you're observing every minute the person is in front of you. And one of the things that I like to do is if they have an unusual posture, I try and mimic that posture a little bit because it makes them comfortable. Then they're with their own people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you need to find ways to relax people. When I was young, I would give people a cup of tea, but I found that if you give them tea, you're already altering them. And I want to actually read them the way they come in the door. I might have water handy in the bathroom. And I wish I had a little camera in the toilet. I would love to see people's, you know, how's that flow? What's that poop look like? I don't think I've had anyone ever poop here, but
It is really important information.
it is. It's like one of my favorite things to talk about is elimination.
Well, it is one of the most important indicators. And so like even that though, that's another interesting topic. Are people usually pretty open about answering questions about that sort
Oh,
of
they're
thing?
usually totally shocked. It's like, you want to know what? How frequently do you have a bowel movement a day? Well, that's always shocking. You know, most of the world is constipated, it seems. And what is the form, color, and texture? And they look at you like, I have to describe my poop? Yes. Is it like a Dairy Queen with, you know, like milk chocolate color that gently coils out and falls into the toilet without splashing or falling apart, no floaters, no streaks? They're like, I never looked at it that way. I said, well, you have an opportunity every day to do this. And you really learn so much about yourself if you look at your poop.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that comes out of your body, it like is an indication of what's going on inside, I think,
Yes.
definitely.
Are you functioning or not?
Yeah. So that yeah, it's a huge important thing to think about. And so are people are pretty open about answering those sort of questions and like
I do have my way to force answers out of them.
yeah.
You know, because I'm pretty, I don't know what you'd say, blunt, straightforward, something. You know, I if I'm comfortable with it, they're comfortable with it. You know, like I've had women say to me, "Oh, I can't ask a man about, you know, his urinary flow after he pees." It's like, you're an herbalist. You know, you need to ask these questions, man or woman. You need to say the word penis. You know, it's like,
And that does take practice. Like I yeah, because I'm a trained pharmacist, and I remember at university we would like in the beginning it was really quite awkward talking about that sort of thing, or like vaginal discharge and that sort of thing. It was just awkward. But after a while we got so used to it, and then like between us like the pharmacy students, we would all just be talking about it like normally, those sort of things in social conversations as well, and other people would be like, what are you talking about? Like that's not normal, but it was normal for us.
yes, it is normal for us that are on the fringe.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's just those uh the yeah, I mean and it's important to be aware of your body and what's kind of what's everything happening. And that is why I think most clients would be coming to an herbalist because they're not aware, and they're wanting someone to help pick up those signs, which is kind of what the role of the herbalist is like picking up those signs and then working out what plant allies are most kind of suited to that particular individual. And that's what I think the client intake process is about, like sort of matching the person and the
Yeah. Well, the other thing I do, for instance, if I have 4 liver herbs and I'm not sure which one to use, I do drop pulse testing. Do you know about that? Yeah. So
walk me through it.
it's radial pulse, and you drop a tincture directly onto the vein and wipe it across, and then your fingers are on the pulse and you read, did it get better, worse, did it get fuller, did it drop away? Or you watch their facial expression, or did their shoulders drop, did they start crying, did they burst out laughing? You know, it's a wonderful way to test which herb is best.
And so I want to make sure I understand. So basically you would do it like with 4 different or like however many options you have, like one after the other, and watch their kind of reaction.
Yeah, but you make sure you don't, like, this would be 1, 2, 3. You don't want to overlap.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to have the leftovers of the previous herb on the vein. So once you drop it on, there's an immediate body change.
Right. And so like in practice, you would put the drop on and then just watch them. Like how long would you watch them for to get that indication?
It's seconds.
Okay.
Matthew Wood taught me this.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. So you just, and what was the name of that? Sorry?
Drop pulse testing.
Drop pulse testing. Okay, cool. That's very interesting. I think the specifics of the diagnostics and all of this I've not really gone into much before, so it's very interesting for me. In fact, I was thinking while you were saying that, I would really like to get into a little bit more of the details of how you look at other aspects as well. So for example, you were talking about the tongue before, and you can get clues about that even when they're talking. What sort of things are you looking at, or what are those indicators that you look at when you're thinking about the tongue?
Okay, so if the tongue fills the mouth too much, you should be able to see a little cave in there while they're talking. If the tongue is very full, it's either spleen or heart indicator. So there's a lot of information. If the tongue torques, if it sort of twists while they're talking, there's tension in the heart. And you'll see that a lot with older people, because that's their vata time of life. They're drying out, and the heart is actually contracting. So that's a heart indicator. If they have little teeth marks on the side, those are spleen indicators, and spleen is about worry. Most herbalists have spleen indicators on their tongues because we worry about our clients all the time. It's like, I don't ever go to any lecture without thinking, oh, David needs that. Or, I'll see in my notes, I'll find people's names off on the sides. Liver is the eyes, ears are the kidneys, stomach and spleen, lungs, the digestive organs, large intestine, small intestine. Every line on the face has meaning. We don't really, my mom died young. She was 77, and she really didn't have noticeable lines on her face. She did have leukemia, but it was pharmaceutically induced, but none of that really showed. It was interesting, and this is, William would say, your face is just an open book of your internal condition. And it's true. And I actually look better now than I did when I was younger, I think, because I'm healthier in a lot of ways, mostly spiritual now than I was then. And I would say in my practice, the connection to spirit, or your feeling of connection to other humans or life, nature, is the most important thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like number one.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's yeah, I definitely agree. First of all, like it is that connection with nature is so important, and you can like I feel my own soul kind of come alive when I spend more time in nature. And on the flip side, when I am spending less time in nature, I also start to feel the effects, and then you're like, hang on a minute, I need to be spending more time in nature. But it's like wonderful and so inspiring that you're feeling better now than you did in the past, which is probably like a patchwork of so many different things, just like that yeah, the spiritual journey that you've been on personally. And so I think it's um nice to know because often we kind of feel like we're on a downward slope, but it's not. It's like
Yeah,
there's better
not at
things to
all.
come.
Yeah, and this, well, I don't want to get into COVID too much, but it did give everybody time for a lot of personal reflection. And I have, at my age, where a lot of people, when I was young, you would say, oh, you just get old and dry up and wither up and, you don't want to have sex. And all. Oh, no, none of that is true. You can stay moist and juicy forever. And giving your body what it needs through herbs and through sunlight and through love is what's important. And I'm learning new things every day and new experiences about myself, my vitality. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is just the yeah, life in general is inspiring and the yeah, that's yeah, gives me a lot of hope for the future, let's say. Which is a wonderful thing. I also did want to going back to one of the things you mentioned before, so the different areas of the face that they have. So like you were saying it that the forehead is the small
Large
intestine, the large
intestine
intestine.
is the upper, and small intestine is the lower.
Yeah.
And then if you have a long line that goes all the way across, that means poor transition from small to large intestine.
Ah.
And then this line here, the very common line, is large intestine. And then if you open up the line and you see a color or a little sort of pink scar-like line, that means it's been there a very long time. So they're more apt to have long-term digestive issues.
Hmm.
Whereas if it's just a little puffy and kind of droops over a little bit, that usually means they just need coffee to get going in the morning.
Yeah. And so it's the actual lines that you look at on the face. It's not like the color or the or it's
It is the
primarily
color
the
as well. So lines, colors, depth of lines, what is inside the lines, and then where the lines are on the face, fingernails, or tongue. And because each organ system has lines specific to them. Like
hmm.
like the large intestine is here, the lungs are here. So if you get a line that goes diagonally up, so you have large intestine and lungs. So when you get this line, I call it a gravity line. It's the day that your breasts reach for the earth.
Hmm.
Women of a certain age suddenly look down and realize, what happened to my perky breasts? You know, so,
Wow.
it's like, this is, if you have a ring line above your thyroid and below your thyroid, that's an indicator that you probably have hypothyroid. You can look to the outer eyebrows if they're thinning or patchy, dullness in the eyes, dullness in the hair. But this line will show up about 10-15 years before it ever shows up on blood work. So just
Hmm.
start treating yourself. Avoid, raw cruciferous vegetables and switch your diet around a little bit. I mean, if you know ahead of time what's going to happen, you might be able to avoid taking Synthroid. You know,
Yeah. And that's exactly the point is like the more aware you are, and that's the the better off you can be, because you can start doing things earlier. And when it's earlier, it's often like much smaller tweaks that are needed later on. Like the earlier you get onto anything, like it might just be a simple diet change, or like just like a tea, or it's like something so simple that makes a huge difference over
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
When I first came to herbalism, I was 24 years old, and I had been told I had some very bizarre symptoms and went to the doctor, and he said, "Oh, you probably have a tumor in your pituitary gland." And I said, "Where's that?" I had no idea. I was not an herbalist at the time. And he said, "Well, it's in your brain, but there really isn't anything we can do about it. We'll test it for 4 quarters of the year." I said, "Well, what do you mean there's nothing you can do about it?" He said, "Well, you'll live about a year and a half." It's like, what? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
clearly that wasn't the case. I mean, the testing did show that I probably had a tumor, but I decided not to go back for the last test. And I went home and left my husband, who was abusive, and changed my life completely. I mean, sometimes you get a health issue so that you can radically change, because your body will speak to you and say, if you don't leave, I'm leaving you.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, stuff happens to wake you up. And then sometimes somebody has everything perfect in their life. They're loving, they're kind, they have a great family, they eat organic everything, and they get some horrible cancer. I have no explanation for that.
Yeah.
But
That
they usually live a quality life for what they're here for.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's you just don't know. And it's kind of we don't know why, really. It's just part of life. But yeah, it's just doing the best we can. But it's like also just being able to show that empathy is important as well, like because it's not like there's not always a specific reason or cause. Like sometimes it just happens, and
Well,
it's
that reminds me of one thing that I do in practice that I think is extremely important is, no matter how serious the person's issue is when they come, you must give them hope that they are uniquely capable of going through whatever has been offered them. Like if they have big, juicy earlobes, like big, round baby thigh earlobes, I tell them, you were born with great kidney chi. You can go through anything. And it empowers them to forge ahead. It's
yeah.
hard to be sick.
Yeah, so that's a really good point in terms of it, just building that rapport with the person so that they also trust you as a practitioner. And which makes me think as well that earlier you said about the pitta type, and they really need to trust you and think that you're smarter than them if they're going to follow your advice. How in practice do you actually go about establishing that authority so that people kind of trust your recommendations? Like how do
Oh,
you get
well,
people to trust you?
for traditional people, I'll just say I taught at Tufts Medical School for 6 years, and that's usually enough to write that one off. Or I could say I teach at Mass College of Pharmacy, Bastyr University, Pacific Rim College, whatever. And, that kind of credential they find very, they're used to looking to doctors who have a lot of letters after their name. I had a great teacher. I can't remember the acronym, but she had all these letters after her name. And somebody said, "What does that mean?" She said, "Complete expert in almost everything." So, and I'm a member of the American Herbalist Guild, professional level, whatever that is now, but whatever. I mean, your best recommendation for anyone is word of mouth. I really think, it isn't all those fancy places I teach. It is that when people come, they get better and they tell their friends or their family. yeah, I saw her and my digestive stuff went away, or, I found balance in this, or my hormones regulated, whatever it was. Word of mouth is best. I never pay for advertising. I think it's a waste of money.
Yeah, well, I think that's a wonderful piece of advice, and like it's actually a recurring theme in this conference. Like a lot of people have
Really?
are sharing that like word of mouth is the most important thing. If you do your job really well as an herbalist, people are going to talk about it, and like just that's the thing. We've got to be good, good at what we do. If you're good at what you do, word is going to spread.
And be honest. I really think it is so important to not have any pretenses, not have any ego around, oh, I'm the best, this and that, whatever. I don't, when people call me a master herbalist, I say, I do not have a master's degree. I am not a master herbalist. People work hard to get that name. And, yes, I've been practicing a long time, 40 some odd years, but yeah, I, and I honestly can say at least a couple of months of every year, I think, oh my God, I don't know enough. Even at this point where my bucket is really full of information, there is still so much I want to learn or be able to retain the learning from.
Mm. Yeah,
You
well,
know,
absolutely. I think it's an ongoing learning journey. Like we're never going to learn everything. It's just I think part of it is being open to learning more all of the time. So like each person that comes in is a new opportunity to learn more, another opportunity to practice. And like because that's also like someone like myself, there's a little bit of anxiety or lack of confidence in actually practicing as an herbalist because of its seems scary, like you're going to make a mistake. But
yeah,
yeah,
guess
viewing it
what?
like that kind of does help.
You will make mistakes. I make mistakes. I still make mistakes, and everybody has good days and bad days. And as far as developing confidence, then when people come to me, I have a clinic that runs constantly now because life is virtual. And I always ask them, what are you working on yourself? So if it's your confidence, then I would say, okay, let's figure out a plan. you know Maybe you could take flower essences. I my one of my very revered teachers is Ian White of Australian Bush Essences, and I studied with him for years, and he's great. And he has these flower essences that really shift people's blocked thoughts or phobias, or agoraphobia, whatever it is. And they're just magic. And the truth is, all plants are magic, whether they're in herbal tea form or aromatherapy or flower essences or in the tub or walking through a field. They are magic, and they are our ancestors. They're our teachers. And, we are just here trying to learn the language, receive the gifts.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I'm also going to look into Ian White. I think it sounds really interesting, the flower essences around that confidence as well. I think it could be interesting for myself personally. But I'm always keeping an eye out for more people to learn from, so thank you for sharing that.
I still have to take flower essences once in a while. He has one called emergency essence that when I'm suddenly stressed out about stuff, which I do get stressed out, everybody thinks I'm so calm. I'm not. And so I'll have to take a little emergency essence to, go forward in whatever it is I'm doing. I'm
Yeah,
just I'm just a human.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I feel like you do really know the subject really well, and one of the things that shows that is your book, The Practicing Herbalist. I
Yeah,
think it would be wonderful if you could, I'm not sure if you have it on hand, if you
I
could
do.
show us kind of what's included in The Practicing Herbalist. I know it's quite a big, heavy book.
It's weight bearing exercise. So this is the book. and I haven't developed my kindergarten teacher skills yet. Let's see. The table of contents really says it all, but it's essentially, I tell my story about how I became an herbalist. So that, here, I'll do it this way. There's, oh, you can't see.
I can see some diagrams there.
Yeah. So it's all these diagrams for all the organ systems. It has the story of how I became an herbalist. It has the endocrine system and cancer and all kinds of diagnostics for each endocrine gland. And I have my intake form and why I ask all the questions I ask. And then it's beautifully, the calligraphy is all done by Kay Parent, who is a master calligrapher, and she deserves that title. So it has how to organize your office, and I'm bad at self-promotion.
Well, I think it's absolutely wonderful that, like, because I personally haven't seen much else out there as far as like how in depth it gets into like the diagrams and the like the mapping it out, like kind of the different areas of like bringing people in that client intake process. I think it's a pretty unique book in the way that it's presented. It's great.
Plus, I do believe it's extremely important to organize your office. You know, like the shelves, the organization of the shelves, having the herbs behind a closed door so they're not changed by people going through, and having good shelves that are practical, that you can find things easily. And when you're having to put tinctures together, you just open the drawer and there are the tincture bottles. And when you're packing things up, things are right there easily, then you don't waste time. And whatever money you have, if you put that into really thinking about your space and how to organize it to make a container for your practice, it makes such a difference. You know, when I first started, I just used the little broom closet as my herb closet, you know, and then it took over. The massage room became the more office. And then eventually it just took over the whole first floor. And honestly, I would say it's taken over the whole house. But, you know, organization is extremely important, as is bookkeeping. You know, you want to be a successful herbalist, you have to learn how to handle money. And my first accountant gave me a huge gift. She said, you have a judgment about money. You think money is bad. You need to think of money as beads and shells. I was the little hippie girl. Beads and shells. You're just trading your pretty beads and shells for somebody else's. It's all the same. Don't judge money. And you need to have money to pay your mortgage and your utility bills and to pay for a car and maybe go on vacation, you know. And so I recommend everyone do a full budget. Everything you spend money on, plus time off, plus a couple of weeks if you get sick, plus whatever comes up in the world, and figure out what that is for an 8-hour day. We all work longer than that. And then what is your hourly wage? And then when you say how much is your consultation fee, you can, without blinking an eye, say it's $200. And that's what it takes to live. So yeah. I know I had a secretary one year who really believed that herbal medicine should be free for people. And when she left, I realized she had knocked all my herb prices down to cost. So I had lost money with that whole year. Whoa.
Yeah, it's so tricky. Like, because I know personally so many people who want to give it away for free, and they want to like just do it because they want to help people. But
You
at the
will
same
give it
time,
away anyway.
if you want to help people, you need to help. You need to be in good health to be able to offer that, and like you need to be recognized for what you do. You do need to be paid, and like as a business person, you need to work out how much it costs, like what you say, and just to have that as a baseline and be able to do that. And then like it might come across, if like maybe there is someone who's in genuine need and needs something, and you can offer that for free if you
That's
have
why I have
time,
that's why I
because
have
other people have paid. Yeah.
when I have clinic, I have sliding scale. So that opens the door for anyone who doesn't have money. You know, there's always a way. I used to trade a lot more than I do now, but I found that oftentimes what they offered in trade really wasn't. Everyone always said, "Oh, I'll garden for you." Well, no, you don't let people into your garden unless they're an herbalist, because they'll pull things up. Not a good.
But that's another topic I have been talking with people recently about as well, in terms of the gardening. Like often that is a sacred place for herbalists, and a place where we get our energy from. And so
Yeah,
we don't want other people in the garden with us, because that's one of our recharging places. And so like so yeah, I mean it depends what sort of person you are and everything, but it might be that you like having that space on your own to recharge, so that you can work with other people in a better way when you're
that's
practicing.
absolutely hysterical that you say that, because in my garden in the summertime, I have jazz concerts, even during COVID. So socially distanced, contact tracing, everything. But I love music. And to me, the musicians play to the plants, and the plants thrive from the music. But that's only every other Sunday, so that's fine. But the rest of the time, it is.
The plants need their jazz music too.
That's right.
It's that. And like I think a lot of people do have a that connection between music and plants as well. Like there is another speaker on the conference as well who does a lot of drumming music on the farm, and they run events like around the drumming and the herbal medicine together as
You
like
heard
this.
the they put little electrodes on the plants and they sing. They started in Italy, by the
I
way. I'll
I
try and
didn't know
get that
this.
information for you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
And you go close to them and they start singing louder. You send them love, they're like, oh, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to look into that. Like the yeah, cool. There's so many different little bits and pieces that I
I know.
don't know about.
Life's
Wow.
a journey.
It most certainly is. So, to kind of wrap up today's session a little bit, I would love it if you could share kind of your top tips for someone who does want to practice as an herbalist. What do you think are the most important things for them to think about?
One, work on yourself. Two, get your numbers in order. Figure out what your accounting is for yourself, and get a good program. Like I use QuickBooks. I don't know what it is anywhere else, but you know, then I don't have to think about prices for anything. It's all figured out. You have to feed them, but study that and do it well. Um, and that way you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your home, your your little basket that holds you, and lecture locally. I did a lot of lectures. I still do a little bit, but the schools or the library, you know, be local. I lecture at all the hospitals. I lecture for doctors' offices so they'll understand what, phytotherapy is. Um, but little local things, the farmers market, once a year I'll do like 10-minute facial diagnosis. I call it sidewalk diagnosis, and people just line up. It's like crazy. and I do little 10-minute reads, it's a riot. It's like in 10 minutes you can get the same answer you would after an hour and a half. But that's fun. But it's great advertising. And that's free. It's like you get paid instead of paying. It's good to value your own work. Like, what has my education cost? That's, I have years, I have what I've spent to educate myself. I have, respect for myself. So I'm going to generate that so that people will feel confident. What else is important to me? Clearing your space is really important. I do it in between clients. And often at the end of the day, if things are feeling weird, I'll realize, oh, I didn't clear the space after that person. Because I want my space to, this is, your office is really important to keep it clear. You don't want that Ghostbusters goo stuck on your wall.
Yeah,
And
that is
drink.
really. And drink. Yeah, that's super important. I think just to having that, making that space for yourself, and it like clearing, like it's the energy as well, like just clearing it out and kind of making it fresh for the new person, so that you can kind of get those clues, because a lot of those things that you're looking at when you are bringing in a new client, they're all subtle little signs. And so having that space clear and ready for them is kind of makes it easier for you as a practitioner as well to kind of read that and connect.
Let's see. I don't know if you can see this. Well, not really. So this, I guess you can't see it. This is a rose. You could use any flower. Rosita Arvego taught me this, and you just put it in the middle of your office. It's in a clear bowl, and you do a little prayer to ask the rose to help you, give thanks to the rose, and keep your office centered and focused on the plants and healing.
Ah, that's wonderful.
More weight-bearing exercise. And this is a great big chunk of rose quartz because I'm all about love.
Wonderful.
And
So
then
nice to see
the
this.
thing that is always present is I douse oftentimes at the end of a session. You can use anything that moves and douse. I have a bunch of little toys, but if when it comes to dosage, I just douse out 5 drops, 2 drops, 2 droppers, 2 tablespoons, whatever. And then I don't have to think, because at the end of a conversation with people, I'm a little bit tired. I don't, my intellectual mind has dropped away and I'm just in the flow.
Yeah. Oh, cool. That's yeah, so interesting.
I do like to, I try to be more simple than I was in the beginning. Instead of giving people every single thing they need, because you do know it. It's like, oh my God, I can see all this would help. But people have to feel like they succeed. So if you give them a few simple things and they come back the next time and you say, how did you do? Oh, I did this and I did that. It's, yay. But if they say, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, you don't want them to feel like they have to go to detention.
Yeah, definitely. Because of it's them, and like, yeah, getting them to increasing client compliance is important, but yeah, if you make them feel like they're going to go to detention, they're probably not going to come back at all, because it's like
And I do like to book
useful.
a revisit.
What was that, sorry?
And I like to book a revisit before they walk out the door or off the screen. And so, depending on the issue, a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months. Yeah.
Great. That's a good a good tool in terms of client retention, and also just making sure that like having that checkpoint to see how it goes. And it's also important like for them in terms of the next steps, but also for you for feedback in terms of like how did it go and did it work, or the like for that decision, but also the future as well, that ongoing learning process. So for people who are interested in finding out more about you, I will have a link to your book on this page somewhere, but where are the best places for them to find out more?
Remember, if it goes to Europe, the book price in the States is $125, but in Europe it's $145, and then shipping. I am the only, well, I did notice online you could buy my book, the first edition, which I do not recommend because it's really badly bound. It's like, oh, how did I learn about all this? By doing. Yeah, they're selling it for $495. Somebody wrote in, do you think this book is worth it? And I wrote back, absolutely not. Get the third edition for $125 from, the website. So the only place I know of it is my website, or Pacific Rim College in Canada sells it as well.
Yeah, so it is self-published, this book as well. So that's kind of cool, because we're not supporting the big book companies. We're supporting the actual author, which is a nice thing, I think.
I just wanted control. I do have my control issues.
Yeah, we all have our things that are particular things. That's fine. So there is the book. Are you also active on like Facebook, Instagram, other social media channels?
I'm so sorry Facebook is so weird right now, but I love Facebook, and I post a lot on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I have a social media person who does all of that, and I occasionally post something myself, but yeah, I'm pretty present. Margi Flint, just Google it.